This is Wednesday, February 25th. It is 9:01, I think. We're in the Volusia-Flagler TPO conference room, and this is our regularly scheduled meeting of the TPO board. I call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Cantu.
Here.
Mayor Chazé.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Vice Mayor Harriot.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gillis.
Here.
Commissioner Dance.
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson. Commissioner Snow. Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Tyamson.
Here.
Commissioner Briley.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Foley. Councilmember Grubbs. Councilman Sander.
Here.
County Chair Brower is excused. Councilmember Robbins is excused. County Vice Chair Reinhardt is excused. Councilmember Johansson is excused. Commissioner Skaidema. Mayor Emmett. Vice Mayor Rogers. Online. Commissioner Canomos.
Here.
Commissioner Belhumeur.
Here.
Mayor Eckert.
Here.
Commissioner Werning.
Here.
Councilmember White. Vice Mayor Smith. Jesse Thompson. William Murray. Simone Kenny. Greg Feldman. Nick Mostert. Kaya Powell here. We have a physical quorum, and Commissioner Warning is the voting member of the Small City Alliance.
Thank you very much. I need a motion to allow for remote participation.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Remote participation is allowed. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comment, both in person or online? None seen. We'll move right on to consent agenda. The consent agenda was provided for everyone's review. Does anyone wish to pull any item for discussion from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I request a motion to approve consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. We'll move right into our action items. It's to review and approve the draft of the fiscal year 2026-27 to fiscal year 27-28 Unified Planning Work Program task activities for Florida FDOT and FHWA review. I'll look for a motion to approve this action item.
So move, Briley.
I think Cantu.
Okay. Ms. Nicklin.
Yes, thank you. So last month's meeting, we talked about task activities that were in our current UPWP, and a lot of them are going to be carried forward to our new UPWP. And just, as a refresher, our UPWP is our 2-year work plan or work program here at the TPO. So it identifies how we spend our time at the staff level and any activities or deliverables over those 2 years that we're looking at producing. So last month we went through the list of activities, but I did want to highlight or update some changes or additions that have been made since last month. And I'll just go through it task by task. So in task 1, we did add kind of in the middle on the right-hand column, an update to our TPO bylaws. Our bylaws were originally adopted in 2014. They were subsequently amended in 2021 and 2023, but they really do need an overhaul. A lot of our documents need to be updated to reflect our name change, but then also take another refresher look. So I'm currently working with our legal counsel on those updates, which will ultimately come back and be presented to the board. But that's an additional activity that was added over the list that you saw last month. And then down a little bit further down, still within this task, but under the state and regional coordination, So we're currently working with 10 MPOs across Central Florida regarding regional TISMO. So we're still trying to flush out what that looks like. But we have in here a deliverable of the development of the regional TISMO program final implementation action plan. So that is a product that we have been trying to scope out. There has been some email communications just this week with Metro Plan Orlando, who is really taking the lead on it. So that may change or further develop a little bit, but for now, with our draft list, we want to include that just to make sure it's covered moving forward. On the next page under task 2, and this was a big discussion, not just at the board level, but also all of our committees with regard to e-bikes. So we've identified that last bullet point there, conduct electric bicycle safety improvement study. There's currently a similar study that's being conducted by the North Florida TPO. So that's the TPO that covers the Jacksonville area. So we are kind of working with them to understand what their scope is for that particular study. We have not identified a scope yet, just a product that we want to deliver, but we will be bringing back a scope and anything further that further refines that to the board. Under the community safety related program within the same task, the last 2 bullets were added. One is to continue our social media distracted driving awareness campaign. During our last UPWP, we had a pilot project where we worked with FDOT and went into the 4 universities within Volusia County and had a campaign going which won an award, a national award. So we're looking at continuing this either at the university level, but also working with both Volusia County Schools as well as Flagler County Schools and see if there's an opportunity to bring this into the high school program. So we want to continue that moving forward. And then also develop safety public service announcements. This was an idea that came out of our CAC, our Citizens Advisory Committee. Ocala Marion had a campaign or a program for safety public service announcements that they recently did over the last year. So we're working with them to identify what the scope of that was for and kind of what the message that they were portraying to the community, but looking at doing something similar. Then on the last page under task 5, we coordinated with Votran to identify projects that they would like for consideration for funding moving into the next UPWP. So we updated this list. The first 4 bullets on that are new projects or programs that they would like assistance with. And then looking down a little bit further on that list, the Votran Southwest Intermodal Transfer Facility. We've coordinated over the past years with Votran to help fund some of their studies and then just to provide some additional support. So we've updated the transit task since we met last month. We did have some coordination meetings with Votran to get an understanding of the activities that they are looking at undertaking over the next 2 years. So we want to make sure that they're should we have funding available that we are able to provide that assistance. Then under the last task, task 7, these are regional activities. So we have a task that's specifically set up where we transfer funds to other agencies for regional activities. We currently do a transfer to Metro Plan Orlando to provide support to administer the Central Florida MPO Alliance. So that is an alliance of the 5 MPOs within District 5 plus Polk. We meet quarterly. We do have 3 board members that sit on that particular committee, but we transfer funds. Every MPO within that district transfers funds to Metro Plan. They administer the meetings, they put the agendas together, they hold the meetings within their space. So that's the purpose. And then the second one that was added, this is to support those regional TISMO projects moving forward. Again, this is still kind of being flushed out with the MPOs within the region, but we want to make sure it's in our draft. So if moving forward, we need to have it in our final, it'll be there. But there may be some changes to kind of that activity. So those are the changes to the UPWP tasks that were presented last month. Now the schedule moving forward, we will be submitting by March 15th, the draft to FDOT and FHWA for their review. Next month, we will be working on and submitting for approval the de-obligation of funds from our current UPWP. And so what that is we look at our current UPWP and any funds that we do not believe we will be spending down by the end of the fiscal year, we de-obligate them so that we're able to use them in year one of our new UPWP. So that's an activity that will come through. It's actually a formal amendment to our current UPWP, but you'll be seeing that next month. Then in April, we'll be bringing back our final UPWP for review and approval, which then needs to be transmitted to FDOT by May 15th. So that's the proposed schedule with the adoption of this document. So if there's any questions or comments, I'm happy to address those.
Thank you for that. Ms. Martin.
Just, we use the term e-bikes, and I understand that, but I don't know about the rest of you, but I am tormented by one wheels, skateboards, scooters. Could we find a way to change the language to something like single rider motorized or single rider electrified, something to mean anything that you're racing on all by yourself?
Potentially, I mean, that's something that could come out of the study. But I know there is a definition of e-bike and classes of e-bike. There's current legislation that's going through right now that may change or alter some of that study. So there's still a lot of unknowns. So this is really a study to kind of address some of the issues that you all are facing and seeing.
Well, I hope that we don't end up with legislation that only refers to the bicycles and leaves out, oh, okay, I can't use my bike, but I can use my scooter, I can use my skateboard, I can use my one wheel. You know, I want to make sure that they're swept in because, and I don't know what's coming up next. I know there are surfboards now that are e-surfboards. So who knew?
That could be just a simple matter of a definition of class of
That's what I said, single rider, electrified or motorized transit. Something like that.
That could be incorporated into the study, couldn't it?
Right. The scope for that study hasn't been defined yet. So this is just really identifying the activity. We will develop the scope. The scope will then have to be amended into our UPWP once that is defined and determined.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Joseph.
I would agree with Lisa. It may be that we do need e-bikes as defined by the state because there's legislation coming, and that this would be a separate category, but I agree with you. I see the guys on the one wheel scooting down the sidewalks and down the trail. You know, it is the electrified one individual kind of transportation mode.
Mhm.
But it may need to be, because the state is moving in a certain way, it may need to be a separate category that is, as Colleen has said, perhaps added in at some point. But some of what we do in our study is going to have to be sort of in tandem with the legislation that's coming so that we match up, I think. But my question was, I am not aware of the VoTrans Southwest Intermodal Transfer Facility. Is this a hoped for new facility?
I know Bobby King is
Yeah.
in the audience.
I mean,
May
it's
be
an
able to
addition
address
to,
that.
it's a new addition to task 5, and that's
Correct.
why I'm asking.
Good morning, Bobby King.
Yes.
Director for Volusia County. We have long wanted to make a formal,
We've long wanted to make a formal transfer facility in the Southwest Volusia area, and we've eyeballed the Orange City Deltona area on Saxon. There's actually a park and ride that FDOT has there that we want to improve, continue to have it be a park and ride, but also we've always had that as a transfer point, but we want to make it a formal transfer facility with upgraded amenities and stuff like that. So we've got some
And the
funding.
transfer
for it.
would be from a dedicated bus line, not having to do with Bow Ride,
No, it would be either one.
either
Mhm.
one.
The idea behind VoRide is to be able to transfer to the fixed route and go further
Right.
or get off a
Right.
fixed route and go the rest of
Okay,
your
so
route.
this would be a facility used for Bow Ride plus the bus.
Right. Mhm.
And it is one that exists as a facility, but not used fully in the way that you're.
That's the
Yeah.
location that we have been
Okay.
pinpointing. We're
Good.
working with FDOT to make that
Right.
happen. So.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Any comments or questions from online? Seeing none, we do have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving this, say aye. Any opposed? Here's unanimously. We'll move on to our presentation and discussion items. Our first one will be a presentation and discussion of the draft Flagler County fiscal year 2026-2035 transportation or transit development plan update. And Mr. Jonathan Roberson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, board members, for having me today. I'm Jonathan Roberson with the Center for Urban Transportation Research, and just wanted to give you a brief update on Flagler County's 10-year transit development plan update. There's a lot of information packed into this presentation, so I'll be going through it a bit quick, but please let me know if there's any thoughts or questions. Give you a little update on the project. It's a 10-year transit plan for the Flagler County service area, the county and all the municipalities. I was going to give you a little update on the projected conditions, some results from initial public outreach we saw and heard, some identification of needs, some additional outreach coming, and some thoughts on a final plan and financial plan. This is a project that started late last September, and we're hoping to wrap up with a final plan in March and a submittal to FDOT for review and approval, and also approval by the Board of County Commissioners also next month. When we took a look, one of the jobs in a transit development plan is to take a look at the current service area. Flagler County currently has ADA and transportation disadvantage services, and that's quite commonly used in the areas mapped here. Ridership for the overall system's beginning to rebound back toward the pre-pandemic levels. And this is all within a county that's almost pretty much projected to double in size from 2010 to 2050. So it's an interesting time for Flagler County to be looking at public transportation. In these types of studies, we also take a look at where there might be current transit demand, where there's household densities, higher poverty rates, 0 or 1 car households, multifamily units, and so those are all outlined here. It's generally in the I-95 corridor, Palm Coast, Bunnell area in this case. We're also taking a look at where folks work and live, and that involves Volusia County a bit, but employment destinations are somewhat spread out. Major employment clusters are shown in the green in Flagler County, and some Flagler County folks are definitely working down in Volusia and a bit up in St. Johns County. When we took a look at the 2050 LRTP of the TPO, we also noticed that all sectors and job sectors in the county are expected to double in number by 2050. And the figure in the middle outlines how there's about 14,600 workers that live and work in Flagler County. There's about 13,000 that come from other counties to work in Flagler County. And interestingly, about over 32,000 Flagler County folks go out of the county to work. We also took a look at the current Flagler County public transportation system, and I won't go over this in detail, but when taking a look at some peer agencies, some county-run transit systems of fairly similar size counties and systems, Flagler County is running a pretty efficient system. It has the most highest number of trips annually and at a fairly reasonable cost, and but with less vehicles and drivers than the other agencies. So real quickly, they've run a pretty efficient system as it stands now. And that's something that's good to start with when you're looking at future transit issues. When we reached out to the public last year about what kind of public transportation they'd like to see improved or added, we reached out with an online social media survey. We interviewed passengers and drivers. We interviewed folks in the community and presented to boards and commissions in the region. We also interviewed these stakeholders in workforce development, MPO, FDOT, VOTRAN, and elected officials in municipalities. So we got a good idea of what people think of public transportation now in the Flagler County. And then generally, people were thinking that there's limits to the current system. It's demand response. It's pre-approval only. A lot of folks think there's a challenge with the land use patterns in the county and how transit might serve that. Many folks thought there might be some kind of need for some kind of flexible on-demand same-day service that meets people's work schedules and utilizes unused FTA 5307 money and some technology upgrades. People also thought they didn't really know about the current system in Flagler County and that there would need to be more infrastructure to support such a system. And the general public also thought that they were surprised that there was not a public transportation service for the general public in Flagler County like there is in Volusia County. A lot of folks from the municipal governments wanted to be more involved in this planning process, so we talked to them more and looked at their plans. And current customers were a little concerned about how long the current system takes to use and schedule and so on. Overall, people were concerned about how they could get to their job from their work, to school from work, and that first mile, last mile challenge in a county with a lot of rural area and spread out land use. So when we interviewed the public with an online social media survey, we had almost 400 returns. And interestingly, when you do this kind of survey about what people think about public transportation is or should be in the county, a number of non-users responded, including, and when asked if they would be interested in expanding public transportation options in Flagler County, over 54%, even though they were non-riders, said yes, and 25% said not sure, and 21% said no. So folks generally were interested in that there might be some need for fixed route service on some key corridors, some same day scheduled service, service to neighboring counties, Saturday service, and point-to-point on-demand service, to name a few. Current passengers were also surveyed, and generally they were rated the existing Flagler County transit system well, drivers being kind and safe, and they'd like to see some improvements with having more drivers, more trips, some scheduling improvements. And they were also interested in maybe more services in the county to help them with their needs. And the drivers, again, this was pretty exhaustive, offered their input on how to attract more drivers, how to make working conditions a little better, and their thoughts on also adding some new services to the county, as noted here. So key takeaways when we reached out to the public was we managed, we're seeing that Flagler County is managing current services efficiently, but they need more staffing and more trips, more scheduling, and availability to improve the existing system. There appears to be a need for some new fixed route or same day flexible service like Volusia Ride that was talked about earlier. And some service that may operate on weekdays, weekends, and evenings. And some infrastructure to support a transit system is also needed. So when doing a 10-year TDP for a big transit agency or a county like this, we take a look at what are some possible needs. So one idea was some fixed route considerations. These are planning level assumptions for new fixed routes in Flagler County on a number of corridors. Really some of their busiest corridors like Moody and Palm Coast Parkway, Belterre, but also possibly some beach service, possibly a system that operates at these hours, at these headways, and with this kind of fare. So that's one option we're looking at for the county for the next 10 years. And another option, and one that can work with the previous one, is some kind of on-demand service for particular parts of the county, again, in 4 zones, point-to-point on-demand service, connections possibly to fixed routes, same-day service, same-day scheduling, perhaps a different fare, and the rest of the county would receive the current service. So putting that together, we're presenting this phase, a potential public transportation system for Flagler County, which is a mix of fixed route transit and on-demand MOD zones. We're taking a look at the ridership for these options, the costs, and so on. But these were some things we've been presenting here the last few weeks. And our next phase is to come up with a final prioritized network based on ridership, costs, public comment and involvement, which we've heard a lot about on this system, and some kind of prioritization of these projects because funding is limited. So we had a phase 2. This is actually kind of the end of the phase 2 public outreach where we did another online survey to ask the public to kind of vote on those options and others. We had a couple of in-person workshops in Palm Coast and Bunnell, and this is wrapping up today, the public presentation for this next phase to get input on that system. And the survey, many of you might have seen this, the county and the cities were really good at getting this pulsed out to their folks. We asked them to prioritize that. So that helps us build a prioritized list of potential projects for Flagler County that we would come back to next time. So next step is to finalize a list of priorities and make kind of a final transit development plan that goes to the Flagler County and that kind of summarizes all this and prioritizes the public transportation needs for Flagler County. Go to board for adoption in March and hopefully back to you in March to also discuss and a submittal to FDOT. That's a lot of info, but any thoughts or questions on what's in front of you or what's in your packet or the service considerations we've put forward for Flagler County?
That's a lot of work. That's really very comprehensive.
Thank you. Thank you. And please reach out if there's any questions you see looking at the packet, the information in a little more detail.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thanks.
Presentation B is a discussion of Clyde Morris Boulevard Corridor Improvement Project. For that, we have Mr. Jim Strohs.
Yes, good morning, Chair and Board. So my name is Jim Strohs. I am the Director of Transportation Development for District 5 FDOT. And I'm really happy to be here this morning to give you all an update on some exciting improvements that we have coming for Clyde Morris Boulevard. Oops, wrong way. So I'd like to start with an overview of the project, which has been designed to enhance safety for all road users. And this includes drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists. As you can see on this map, it shows the proposed corridor limits, which are separated into 3 different segments. And the segments are noted by the 3 different colors. And we'll have some additional slides that'll cover each of those individual segments. But the complete limits of the project go from State Road 400 or Bevel Road all the way up to State Road 430 Mason Avenue. From a high-level overview, the 3 segments will include various improvements, but each segment will include a milling and resurfacing of the entire roadway, which combined is about 3.5 miles. Part of the corridor will also provide a 14-foot multi-use shared use path on the west side of the road, and then a wide 8-foot sidewalk on the east side. And I really want to highlight that 4th bullet down there, which identifies a new pedestrian tunnel. And yes, you heard me right. That's a pedestrian tunnel we're planning right in front of the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University main entrance. Other improvements to drainage, street lighting, and traffic signals are also included, as well as setting up the intersection to accommodate the future realignment of the Bellevue Avenue extension. So as I prepare to cover each segment, I really want to highlight the schedule for this project. The 3 segments are shown in the 3 green rectangular boxes. And really exciting is that the first segment is going to start essentially at the end of this calendar year. And you'll see that each of these segments do overlap slightly, and that's intentional to kind of streamline the work and then also minimize the construction duration. And you'll notice as one segment ends, the next segment will begin. So starting with segment 1, you can see the improvements are located between Richard Petty Boulevard and US 92 or International Speedway Boulevard, and that's shown by the red line on the map. The primary work for this segment includes piping the canal on the west side of the roadway and relocating major utilities in preparation for the future segments like that pedestrian tunnel that I mentioned. We also will be installing that 14-foot multi-use trail on the west side of the roadway. This segment is expected to be awarded this fall, with construction again starting right at the end of the calendar year. And the estimated cost for this segment is just under $10 million. So segment 2 is shown by the blue line, and it is separated into 2 different portions. So I'm showing the southern portion here, which I'll just call segment 2A, and it's from Aviation Parkway or Bellevue Avenue up to Richard Petty. The highlight of this segment is the continuation of that trail and the wide sidewalks on the east side of the roadway, as well as the pedestrian tunnel. And I'll have some renderings in the following slides that show some of the views of the improvements as well as the tunnel. The northern portion of that segment 2, which is 2B, is going to be constructed at the same time as 2A and will be more of our traditional resurfacing project. The limits here are from International Speedway Boulevard up to Mason Avenue. And then the total cost of segment 2 is about $12.7 million. So these next 3 slides I'm going to show will have the renderings of the corridor improvement. This is a slide that's from the driver's perspective and shows the landscape medians and a view from south of the university's pedestrian bridge. And you can see the wide sidewalks there on the east side of the roadway. So this slide shows a bird's eye view of the proposed pedestrian tunnel located at the Embry-Riddle University main entrance. This is the first project that I've ever been involved with a pedestrian tunnel, so I'm really excited to see that final product. When I first heard about the pedestrian tunnel, I had asked, how many pedestrians cross that intersection? And I will say I was amazed when I heard the number. We did some traffic counts out there for a couple of days, and it ranged anywhere, or it started at 1,500 crossings in an 8-hour period, all the way up to 1,700 crossings. So that's an average of over 200 pedestrian crossings an hour. Which really is an incredible number. It's definitely one of the highest pedestrian activity intersections that I've ever seen. We worked very closely with university staff to ensure the design of the tunnel is resilient. So that includes the waterproofing and then sump pumps. And then most importantly, to make sure that it is safe for the students. We will have closed circuit TV for security monitoring. Also, there's the emergency blue light phones, which are located throughout the campus, and those will also be located in the tunnel, as well as LED lighting. So here is another view from Clyde Morris Boulevard near the Halifax Health Hospital, looking north. And then the last segment to go to construction is segment 3, which is shown by that orange line. And this will complete the corridor improvements. In addition to resurfacing that southern section, this project will install raised landscape medians and then complete the trail and wide sidewalks on both sides of the roads. It'll also rebuild several of the traffic signals from the concrete strain poles to the steel mast arms. And then here's another rendering that is in that segment 3 that is looking south toward Bevel Road. So as I close my presentation, I would like to highlight some of the partners that really made this project a reality. In order to provide these corridor improvements like the trail, the utility relocation, and the pedestrian tunnel, there was a need for the DOT to purchase right-of-way. And generally, acquiring right-of-way added several years to our process. However, this corridor was very unique because the owners of the right-of-way really came down to 3 owners. It was the city of Daytona Beach, Volusia County, and then Embry-Riddle University. And our relationships with these partners really allowed us to usher this project along with some efficiency. So a big thank you to the city, the county, and the university for making this happen. If it wasn't for their cooperation, it definitely would have taken several more years to make this a reality. So that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Cantu.
This is all great news. I do have a question on segment 3. Said there's gonna be a bike path, right there, but there's a section from Bevel 400 to Hancock and there's like a separation there now because we have sidewalks going all the way down to Port Orange now and down 400 West. But I was always told there's a section right there from Hancock to Bevel 400 that there's major utilities there and there's a problem putting in that bike path, and that's where the dry retention pond is. Is that correct?
So I will say over my left shoulder, I do have a phone a friend. So if he's nodding, then let me know if I'm answering the question correctly. But yes, there are major utility issues there that have been worked through our design. But yes, it's part of our design is to handle those.
Because recently, it's taken me over a year to try to find out, because if you ever looked at that dry retention pond, it was a mess. And going through DEP, I went through everyone trying to find out who was responsible for it. And finally, I found out who was responsible because it was Walgreens. And
Okay.
it just never was clean, and we're just finally getting it up to par. But I'm just curious how that bike path, because you know how it's kind of, it goes up and down.
And I would say my phone a friend is our FDOT project manager, Mr. Ty Garner. So
Okay.
Ty, is there anything
you.
else?
Good morning. Thank you. So in that area there's a couple things we're doing. We're moving the curb in a little bit to accommodate the 14-foot trail. We don't need any additional right of way. We do have a lot of drainage inlets in that section that will impact utilities. So we will be working close with the utility agencies, the owners, and minimize the impacts as much as we possibly can. Also, that free-flowing right turn lane off of southbound Clyde Morris at Hancock is being removed, and that free-flowing to make it safer for pedestrians and to include that 14-foot trail through there. So we'll be building the returns big enough to accommodate the semi-trucks going to Publix and the school board buses. So that's going to help there. That will help eliminate some of the utility impacts through that intersection. And then between that and the driveway to the Publix just to the south, we'll move the curb line in just a little bit and be able to fit the trail in there.
That's such great news, because I get complaints all the time because that break right there.
I'm aware, and the good news is we are able to, as the director said, advance this project. So we at one point we're looking at, can we do an interim improvement there? And I think that would just be throwaway at this point. So
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Shazad.
Quick question about the pedestrian tunnel, just because I'm interested in pedestrian tunnels. I know that there is one in Seminole County under 434, which is used primarily for a bike trail. So if there are any learnings from that, I would suggest that, it's always better to learn on somebody else's dime.
Yeah.
That would be an important thing to know. But I'm interested in the cost component, the segment 2 where the pedestrian tunnels put in, the overall cost is 12.7 million. How much of that is the pedestrian tunnel?
I'll say 9.
Close enough.
8, yeah.
Yeah.
9 million.
I know that there was an exploration again in Seminole County for another such tunnel, and it came in at some number that blew everything that they knew out of the water, and so that one was, my understanding, was put on the back burner or nixed.
By chance, was that around 436, 434?
It could have been.
Okay.
It's within the last 6 or 8 months
Got
that it came to the surface, and it was costed out, and it just blew it out of the water. So I'm interested because over time we have looked at the pedestrian and bicycle things where the 3 trails come together at 1792 and Dirksen and south part of DeBerry. We've had numerous people think, of course, a bridge over 1792 is the answer. Well, that's like 5 million. And I've heard from others that a pedestrian overpass, which takes a lot of energy, get up and over may not be enough to get people incentivized to use it, who find it much easier to cross at grade. And my stance has always been, I'll find the money if I'm convinced that they're going to use it. But if most people are still going to cross at grade, I can't justify 5 million to run a overpass, pedestrian overcrossing over 1792. So tunnels is another idea, but I understood they were completely out of the question. That's the background for my interest, but thank you.
Absolutely.
I have two myself. Are there two tunnels on the north and one on the north side and one on the south side of the east-west road?
No, just on the, I guess this would be looking, this is looking south. And so, yeah, it would just be there on that.
Just to one side. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. And the next question is, when you're adding the median, will that push the roadway further out into the right of way?
No, I believe the curb lines stay correct. Are they slightly adjusted?
In most cases, the curb lines will stay where they're at. In some cases, we're actually bringing the curb line in a little bit
Okay,
and narrowing the lanes to 11 foot.
okay, all right. Thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to all of those improvements. That's all.
Thank you.
Good. Next presentation will be Kyle Powell, FDOT report.
Good morning. As usual, your most up-to-date construction report is in your agenda. If you go online, all of those hyperlink to CFO Roads, which has additional information and events taking place. To start, we'll go over a couple of upcoming projects. The first one is the State Road 40 movable bridge rehabilitation. And that started in January. And then the State Road 44 bridge bearing rehabilitation to start in 2026. I think this is last month. That's okay. That's okay. Also coming up this month is going to be the State Road 600 at the intersection of Lockhart Street. That's going to be improving pedestrian safety. It's going to be construction of new signal poles as well as curb reconstructions that meet ADA requirements. And that's scheduled to start this month with an expected completion date of this summer. Okay. So I'm gonna. And then a couple of events. Sorry, I've got additional updates from this one last month. We had recently completed our Central Florida Construction Career Days. This was an opportunity for students to go through and try different technical and hands-on experience, different fields throughout our transportation and construction industry. That was held July 29th and 30th, and that was included 57 high schools from Brevard, Lake, Marion, Orange, Osceola, Seminole, Sumter, and Volusia counties. We had a great turnout and allows high school students to get an idea of what they might like to do in future careers. Also for February is, February 6th was Florida School Crossing Guard Appreciation Day. Our crossing guards do a lot every day to keep our families and our children safe. So just make sure this month and every month to appreciate your crossing guards when you see them. A note, a thank you, a wave as you go by in any crossing zones when they're there is always appreciated. Lastly, we've got the some resources that we always like to share and keep you up to date on. We have CFL Roads, all your projects. You can go on. They've added some really easy ways to find projects. You can look up by streets, by county, and a few other things. You can see upcoming events. The next one is I-4 Beyond the Ultimate. You can see all updates happening with the projects going on there. And then the last one is the District 5 Safety Office website for any training or helpful videos about safety. And then next month, just want to bring up, we have almost completed our joint certification for the TPO. So we'll be bringing that to you next month with the report on the TPO's joint certification and their rating. So we look forward to doing that. Other than that, I will be here after the meeting for any project-specific questions. Happy to answer that. And then on the bottom of the slide is my contact info. Please email me if anything comes up, and I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Comments or questions for her?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick one. Has the South Causeway started? I haven't seen any activity.
I don't think so. No.
So we should revise the start date from February? I'm just asking.
Do you have a start date for it?
I have to look.
We'll look it up and see if it's been updated.
It'll be starting soon. I'll get you the exact date.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to Executive Director's report.
Thank you. I just have a couple of items. Our call for projects is closing on Friday. So Friday at 4:00. We have received a couple of applications for review and provide comments back to the local agencies before final submittal. We've also received a couple cost estimate updates from some of our local governments, which we require at this time as well. So next month, we'll be bringing back just the projects that we received. If there's any issues or concerns with some of the applications, whether or not they fit within our call for projects, we'll identify that at that time. Typically, we don't, since we've made some updates to our policies regarding the different categories, we really haven't had an issue with some of the projects coming in and whether or not they qualify for funding. But you'll see the list of all the projects that were submitted last month or next month. And then we'll go through our committees to review and rank them, and then ultimately update our priority list with any new projects that come in. We're also currently working with your staff through the TCC and FDOT to update the Central Florida Regional Planning Model. So this is the transportation demand model that's utilized in the region to estimate traffic patterns and traffic flows. So we're currently working with your local governments on that. So just to give you an update. And then I also wanted to just, make a mention that the Clyde Morris Boulevard project that was presented, this project was ranked #1 on our regionally significant non-SIS projects within our current 2050 long-range transportation plan. At the time of the development of the plan, we had identified funding not being available until 2031. So we're very appreciative of the partnership with FDOT to be able to advance this project and move it forward. So that really shows kind of the prioritization process and how important it is, to have projects on that list, but then also to communicate and coordinate with the local governments and DOT moving forward to get funding for those projects. So we're very pleased to have that project move forward and be advanced. And those were my comments.
Very good. That's a lot coming up. Thank you. Board member comments. All's quiet. Well, yes, sir.
This may not be my last meeting.
Okay.
Got an election coming up next Tuesday. So, if I don't get the chance, I want to say it now. It's been a pleasure working with CPO for the better part of 15 years. Hopefully I'll be back next month. We'll see.
Well, on behalf of the TPO, I want to say thank you for your service to this board.
Well, not only the
Thank you
board,
very
but
much.
other, subcommittees and stuff as well.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much, and I wish you the best in what you're going for. And I just will say thank you, everybody, for your time coming out today. I know that we're all busy schedules, but this is important work too. Thank you for your drive time and coming out to get this work done. We're adjourned.